Hello everyone, welcome back. Apologies, it's been a couple of weeks since I've made a video. Like yourselves, I've been a little bit busy too, so once again apologies for that. We'll try and address that today. For those of you in the UK, I hope you're having a great bank holiday Monday. The sunshine's gone in a little bit, as you know. We've had a couple of weeks of hot weather, so the temperatures have dropped down to the normal, I suppose. That's a good way of putting it. But anyway, I hope you're having a nice day, and I thought I'd use today as a good opportunity to get another video out. So I'm going to be talking to you about a number of different things. I've got my list open in front of me as usual. One of the things I'm going to start off with is AI, which is no surprise. There's so many platforms out there now. As I've mentioned in other videos, ChatGPT is probably the most well-known because it's been in the news headlines, and in the last kind of 2-3 months approximately, we've had like DeepSeek in the news, which is like the Chinese version of let's say ChatGPT. Some users who've tried it out have said it's been very good, very reliable, and it's got a lot of American tech firms worried. So there's lots of different platforms out there. Obviously ChatGPT is great for getting copy together and regional language variations. For example, if you're in India, you might be able to get different regional variations of a language together, using ChatGPT. I use it quite a lot. I find it very helpful. I don't rely on it 100%, but it gives me, let's say, 60-70% of what I'm looking for, and then I have to go in and humanize it and correct any not spelling mistakes, but American spellings to English spellings. Like a Z is a good example. A lot of words have Zs in them. For example, it's just the American way of spelling things. So I often have to go in and replace the Z with an S, like authorize, for example, is a good example. So look, there's tons and tons of them out there, and I'm probably going to put some of them in the description for you just to kind of pick out and have a look at, and it's a bit jumbled up, but there's just so many of them. I'll probably put them in the description and let you have a good look through each one. It's probably impossible for me to put all of them in the description because I probably won't have enough space, but I'll do my best to put a comprehensive list of like all the AIs, well, not all the AIs, but certainly a large proportion of them into the description for your benefit. Okay, so let's talk about Midjourney and DALL-E. DALL-E as in DALL-E. It's very good for image creation. A lot of people have reported using Midjourney and stuff like that, even Runway, for image creation, and depending on what kind of images you're looking for, and how on brand it needs to be, you'll find those are very, very good. Other platforms like Copy AI and Jasper, good for email sequences and stuff. So if you're not sure what that means, obviously you'd appreciate there's different email automation sequence software out there. So Copy AI and Jasper will help you get those email sequences in some kind of sensible order, that are likely to engage and get good results from the people you're trying to target with those email automation campaigns. You will realize, obviously, or I hope you will, that a lot of these platforms do more than one thing. Now if you look at Copy AI as an example, we do loads and loads of different stuff, and I'll be honest, it's not the cheapest. The actual pricing from each of the AIs varies wildly, and it can vary from either free, which is I'm sure you'll appreciate is better for everybody, to £10 a month or $10. A lot of them are priced in dollars because they're like US companies or headquartered in the US, or if they're not headquartered in the US, they just prefer to bill in dollars, depending on where they are in the world. It's a common thing with the SaaS platforms, they do tend to bill in dollars. it's just easier for them, I guess, depending on where they are in the world. But the prices do vary wildly. Some of them range from sort of £400 or £500 a year for a kind of medium starter plan type thing to a couple of £1,000 a year. So you've really got to ask yourselves, what are you trying to achieve? What's the end result? And is it worth paying the money? Now, I'm not saying it is or it isn't, but that's a question you have to ask yourselves, because there's a lot of free platforms out there, or nearly free platforms, and if you're just creating content, let's say, to post to the main social media channels, then you'll probably find that something like Adobe Express or Canva Pro for like about £10 a month can more or less tick most of the boxes. So unless you've got a very kind of bespoke, customized requirement for specialist imagery and AI generated imagery and stuff, in my opinion, it probably isn't worth you spending £500-600 a year. But it's a question for you to ask. What kind of business are you? How much money does your company make? Who you're trying to reach? What is the demographic? These are all questions you need to be asking yourselves. But so look, let's just kind of move on with us a little bit. A lot of these AI platforms, a lot of people have said that there's a kind of very generic output. So if you're trying to keep things on brand for medium to large size brand, you may encounter some problems with that, because the output tends to be quite generic, and it doesn't kind of give you a strategy either. So when it serves up these images, whether it's like a GIF or a video or animation or whatever it might be, it doesn't specifically give you a strategy how to you just understand what I'm saying. Like, it won't say upload this to Instagram, LinkedIn and TikTok. It won't. Maybe you have to ask different prompts with different platforms to get that kind of information. So it won't give you a strategy there and then when it serves up the graphics. Yeah. So a lot of A/B testing has been done on this kind of stuff. Example, AI written content or AI generated images versus human written content versus human generated imagery through Adobe Suite and Canva Pro, and there's actually tons of them. So just something to bear in mind. Let's move on a little bit to kind of what's changed with the algorithm with YouTube, SEO. Shorts are proving very popular, because most of the people are using mobile phones to access the internet. It's a huge thing. If I look in the analytics of my YouTube channel, it will tell me that at least 55% of people are using mobile to access the internet. Now, to be fair, I do have quite a lot of subscribers in India. For the first time, that's overtaken the amount of subscribers that I have in the UK. The demographic's quite good. It's everything from 18 years old to 45 years old. I think 45% fall in that category, 18 years old to 45 years old, all countries that is, of which 30% are female. So it's international demographic. I've got good 10% of my subscribers are from Indonesia, some from Vietnam, good 20-25% from the UK. So it's growing, and I am kind of rolling out and targeting other countries where I believe they have like emerging digital economies and English speakers and young aspiring professionals, because that's kind of what my channel is aimed at. So it's certainly from the emerging economies where English is quite widely spoken, and people are doing a lot of remote work, and digital marketing is like seen as a genuine, real way to make money and earn a living. I mean, I've been doing it for a long time, on and off, mainly on, but there are gaps. When I say there's gaps, because of the contract work. So look, so one of the things that's changed with the SEO is the algorithm, as I touched on, is favouring shorts. So if you can try and maybe just pivot your content so that you do at least 50% shorts. Maybe I'm going to start doing it as well. You know, A, they're easier to produce. You know, it takes a lot less time to produce a 1-minute video. Even if you spend like an hour editing it afterwards in something like CapCut or one of the other platforms like Adobe or Final Cut Pro or whatever it is, you know, it's still a lot less time than recording and editing a long form content video like this one, which can, you know, the videos are often run into 15 to 20 minutes or more, and then you just need to spend time editing it and researching the keywords and everything. So just one thing to bear in mind. What else can I tell you? I suppose, you know, from the research I've done, the actual click-through rate and average view duration is now seen as more important than keyword stuffing. So, you know, keyword stuffing is when, you know, people stuff a load of keywords into a description. Now, to a degree, I do that as well. I don't think it does any harm. But what I'm saying is that's not the only metric that's going to drive your videos. You know, if you can make your content engaging through having the right thumbnails, you know, attractive thumbnail, because that's what's going to make people click on it, whether it's a short or long form content. You know, and if you can get a good click-through rate as a result of that and have people watching your videos for longer, that is going to help you more than, you know, just stuffing your videos with keywords in the description, etc, etc. Okay, so good example of that might be, say if you've got a channel with like 50,000 plus growth via YouTube Shorts and auto captioning, you know, that could be a good example of that. And another thing worth mentioning is, you know, if you want to increase your regional visibility, maybe look at, you know, introducing, you know, different languages into the titles and the video description and stuff. And I think that will be a big standout thing. You know, for example, I mentioned a minute ago, I've got, you know, for the first time I've got more subscribers in India than I have in the UK. I'm going to be targeting other countries, but, you know, if you or anybody else can, you know, maybe if that is you, you know, and you've got subscribers in different countries, or you try to reach subscribers in different countries, maybe look at, you know, having a shorter description in 2 or 3 languages, if that makes sense. You know, it's easy to do on ChatGPT, or you don't even need to use ChatGPT, you can use Google Translate, and it'll just make it much easier for the audience to read the description. You just, excuse me, maybe have like a little flag, you know, there's different ways to get those little flag emojis. You need to grab them off Facebook or different platforms and just copy them and paste them into a description, and then people will see the flag, and then they have the video description, which might be a bit shorter admittedly, in their own native language, and that's going to make it much more interesting for them and easier for them to read. Okay, so just moving on, what are the best free AI tools in 2025? Now, the list is never ending. It is literally never ending. Like I said at the beginning of the video, I will try to put into the description either a link with, you know, quite a large number of SAS sites, or if it's not that, I'll copy and paste from in. So, you know, there's all kinds of different tools out there for different purposes. So you've got Opus Clip for video repurposing. You know, so say if you've got like a bit of long form content, you want to repurpose the video into short form content, and there's quite a few platforms like that, but that's one, Opus Clip. Then you've got Clip Drop, so object removal. So say, yeah, the best thing to do, because I'm just going to read them out, but if you have a look at them yourself, that will give you a much better feel for what they do. I will tell you, but you have a look at them yourself as well. So Canva AI, I use Canva Pro, it's dead easy, but I also use Adobe for a lot of things. I use Adobe Suite for video editing, you know, and sometimes CapCut can be quite good for editing YouTube Shorts. But so yeah, have a look at Canva AI, templates and auto copy, you know, in brackets. Predis.ai, post creation, so that's, you know, yeah, have a look at that. Lumen 5 video automation. I had a look at this platform not so long ago, and the reason I had a look at it is because I came across a company that was using Lumen 5, and depending on your skill set and what you're trying to achieve and who your target market is, it's maybe not too bad. It's not. I didn't find it too expensive. You know, I was looking at the pricing plans and everything, and like I say, I mean, I've been doing YouTube for a while. I have my own video camera. I have the Adobe Suite. I know how to edit the videos, so you know I can probably do a lot of this stuff myself. But for somebody working in-house in a company, maybe a small company, it could be a family business, could be a one-man band, could be an SME, yeah, anything along those lines, depending on the resources and who they've got available in-house to do it, you know, you might find that they might find that quite useful. It's called Lumen 5. It's a video automation platform. Basically, what it does is it allows you to create videos with set templates that they have, and you add your own messaging, your own pictures and stuff, and it just goes out. So it's good. So I've already talked about ChatGPT, good for caption generation. You know, if you're looking for title ideas, you know, video title ideas, video suggestions, anything like that, or even to write an article, you know, with context, you know, around a book or a theme or a topic or some kind of specialist question you're not sure about. That's a good place to start. Adobe Firefly, that's like a graphics thing and part of the Adobe suite. I did have a look at it recently. It's not completely free. You know, there's definitely a paid plan to get most of the features, but yeah, that might be worth a look as well. Notion AI for content planning. Although having said that, I mean, you know, I don't use Notion AI. You know, I think there's lots of free platforms out there, you know, including Google Gemini, where it's a great place to start to get ideas for your content. And you know, if you maybe tell the system or the platform, the AI platform, what videos you've done and the name of your channel, then it can maybe throw up some new stuff which isn't duplication. Then you've got Grammarly Go, but you know, but now in a lot of the like Microsoft Word and you know, I mean, I actually use something called Kingsoft Office. It's very similar to Microsoft Word. It's a lot cheaper. Yeah, but a lot cheaper. And they've kind of got AI built into that now. We're seeing it in a lot of different. We're seeing it in a lot of different sectors, especially, you know, word processing programs or programs equivalent to Microsoft Office, you know, Copilot and stuff. You know, we're seeing it right across the board, and you even see it in Gmail. You know, if you're typing out an email in draft in Gmail, you know, if you made a spelling mistake or whatever, it will come up with a red line. Just click on it and auto correct it, and there's no kind of limits on how many times you can do that. And with some of the AIs, you don't only allow you to do that so many times before you have to upgrade. So it's not always worth upgrading. Sometimes you can get these things done for free, and sometimes I find it, you know, more beneficial to have like a good balance between, you know, using the AI and human intelligence, you know, because whilst AI is great, you know, it's obviously been trained on different data sets. I always like to kind of merge your human thinking and, you know, human intelligence and, you know, human personality and what I think, or let's say what I feel the hunch is, what people are keen to talk about, and then I like to mix that up with the AI and splice the two together, and hopefully I end up with like a great title, you know, great content and all the rest of it. So I kind of like the best of both worlds, to be honest, personally speaking. So then you've got clean up pictures. Have a look at that one. Yeah, I mean, like I said, there's just so many of these, and you know, depending on what kind of business you are and what you're trying to achieve, you may find that, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them may be all you need. You know, it's easy to get carried away thinking that you need to be an expert in 100 or 200 or 300 AIs, and I really don't believe that to be the case. So let's move on. Okay, so next up we're going to have a quick chat about, you know, the differences between like TikTok, Instagram Reels and YouTube Shorts. Now, you know, there's no denying that there's been a big explosion with like short form content. You know, it's easier to make. Even people with who aren't like digital marketeers, who, aren't in marketing as a career can do it, ranging from 18, 19, 20, 21 year olds. There's software out there like CapCut to get the best of the features. It is paid. I think it's about £10 a month or just over that, but will give you the option to create short form content with a variety of different templates. I actually got an email from Instagram the other day asking me to sort of demo, trial out one of their latest offerings. It's called Edits by Instagram. You can actually download it from Google Play. I did have a quick look. I didn't know, I was a bit pushed for time on the day in question a couple of days ago, but I did have a quick. It's not too bad actually. Basically what you do is you download it obviously onto your smartphone, and then when you go to log in, it will, a bit like Threads, it will sign you in through your Instagram account. Do you see what I mean? So it will automatically register if you've got an Instagram account, and you'll sign in through your Instagram account. And it's got quite a lot of special effects. I was quite surprised actually, maybe sort of 20, 25, 35. Some of them are better than others. But if you are doing short form content, you can create these things through platforms like Instagram Edits or CapCut or TikTok or whatever it might be, and then you can kind of repurpose it and post it for different channels. I mean, I've actually had a dabble with TikTok in the past, and the algorithm is especially if you're a new account, it will get you noticed quite quickly. It's all good. I do think that especially for something like marketing or digital marketing, most people tend to go to like YouTube for that, potentially Instagram, but mainly YouTube. Depends on the product. If you're marketing beauty or fashion gear or apparel or clothes or something like that, then I would definitely say TikTok or Instagram. But for something more technical, definitely YouTube, potentially Instagram, TikTok, I'm not sure, because the demographic is a bit different. You see, it's I wouldn't say young kids, but it's definitely people, teenage years up to sort of 35, 40 maybe, so the demographic is different. It's very effective, but you just got to ask yourself what product service are you offering and who your demographic is. But all these things are interlinked. And have a look at Edits by Instagram. It's like a new offering of theirs. You'll have to go to YouTube, not YouTube, but Google Play to download it, and then sign in through your Google account as normal. As far as I know, there's no need to upgrade. You can just use it, all the features. I'm probably going to play around with that a bit more, to be honest. Some good special effects in there, more so than or equal to, let's say, CapCut. That's the impression I got just from having a quick look. So the fact it's been launched by Instagram means it's not some kind of Mickey Mouse developer type thing. Have a look. It's called Edits by Instagram. Okay, so let's move on. Okay, so a bit of a longer video today because I haven't made one for a couple of weeks. In the next segment of this video, if I can call it that, we're going to look at some of the things you can do to market your products or services, assuming you don't have a big budget. So, how to market on a budget effectively, essentially speaking, let's say. So, look, there are different platforms out there. There's like Canva Free, Meta Ads Lite, Google Sites, WhatsApp Business. And what I am saying is, and I'm sure you'll appreciate this, is that it's not always necessary to be, running Google Ads, to be, it's horses for courses. A more established business that's been going a while or has deeper pockets, and depending on who they're trying to reach, who they're trying to target to, maybe it makes sense for them to be running Google Ads and programmatic advertising and affiliate campaigns and all this kind of stuff. But on a more basic level, you can still market your products and your services in an effective way just by using things like Canva Free, WhatsApp for Business. It's easy to get a WhatsApp for Business account or set one up. You can use things like QR codes, which are there's different platforms out there where you can create one for free, and then you can sort of download those QR codes digitally or print them off physically and put them in certain locations and with different, QR codes can do different things, right? So when people scan it, it'll either take you to a website, or it will dial a number, or it will, you can set these things up to perform different tasks when they're scanned. So Canva free. If you're not a Canva Pro subscriber, let's say, you can still get access to a lot of the stuff for free. Same is true of Adobe Express, by the way. Meta Ads Lite, so as the title suggests, that's like a slimmed down version of like the full-blown Meta Ads experience. Google Sites, so if you want to throw up a website quickly at very low cost, you can use something like Google Sites. There are now a myriad of providers, let's say providers who will allow you to create a website for next to nothing, if not free, and I've even seen some pro bono ones where it's an actual organization that will design your website for free. You just pay for the hosting. So there's numerous things you can do to market your product or service on a budget. I guess the myth to debunk is that everybody thinks that you need huge big bucks to market anything, and it is true that you kind of do need to have some marketing spend because you can only do what your marketing spend will allow. But it's also true that you can do a lot of things on a low budget. So I just wanted to kind of include that in the video because I thought that it was relevant, because not everybody needs to be marketing or their products services on Google Sites. Okay, so let's move on. Okay, so on the sustainability marketing front, I know I've just kind of skirted around this on previous videos. It is important because a lot of companies now have got shareholders and stakeholders who are constantly putting pressure on them to adapt to new practices that save money, that are more friendly towards the climate and the planet and stuff. So I do think there are some kind of small things that you can do there. Maybe look at eco packaging. If you're like a manufacturer, you can perhaps look at eco packaging, and it might work out cheaper, it might work out a bit more expensive, but if your customers can see that you're using eco packaging, that might actually help your sales. A lot of people now are shopping a bit more conscious of what's good for the planet, what's good for the environment, if it's plastic or recyclable paper or whatever it might be. So maybe you could look at sort of like a recyclable rewards program, depending on your product. So for example, I'm just making this up, you could be a manufacturer of plastic bottles, or plastic coffee cups, or something along those lines, or biodegradable coffee cups. So maybe you could encourage your customers to recycle their things in exchange for one free product or service or whatever it might be. I'll leave that to you to think about, but it's just one more string to the bow of the way you could approach it. So you could maybe, from a content point of view, you can maybe film something behind the scenes in terms of sustainable practices, and follow the flow through from when the recyclable stuff arrives or is sent off to the recycling plant, and just try and make some content out of it so that your viewers, customers, clients can see that it's not all empty words, and they can follow that journey. Look into various certificates. There's different types out there. If you Google it, I'm sure it won't be hard to find one. There's the World Land Trust for starters, but there's plenty of others which you could potentially enroll in or enter into as a company or a business, especially from the UK. But I'm sure that these things exist in other countries as well. Like I said, I know I've got a lot of followers in like India and Indonesia and Vietnam and places like that, but a lot of these things are going to be, if they're not already, they're going to be big growth areas for countries like that. So you can try and just put that angle on stuff and just think about it from your own national stroke country point of view as to where things are heading and how you might be able to integrate that into your products and services. That will help you a lot. There's free on Canva, there's free sustainability reports which you can edit, just to help you present what you are doing as a company and a business to your stakeholders in a slightly better way. And then have something like Linktree with eco landing pages. Linktree is a bit like, think of it as like I'm sure you've heard, I know what it is. It's basically, I'm just trying to think of, there's plenty of them, but I don't sort of spring to mind. It's basically like a one super link, if you like. You can have all your other links off it. So if you have like a link tree, and then you can have all your eco landing pages and links to different projects you're involved in and stuff, and that'll just help to declutter things. So it's just like one central link and then a lot of sublinks from it. So maybe look into that. So look, obviously I've been talking for a while. I'm going to wrap up soon, but I'll just talk a little bit more, and we'll finish up on any stuff I don't cover in this video or my next video, whenever it is, probably the week after next. So look, think global and act hyperlocal. So it's always good to think big, right? Because I do feel some people don't set their sights high enough. So if you can think globally, think big, certainly think beyond the boundaries of your own company from a marketing point of view. Bearing in mind that a lot of stuff is done online now for email marketing and websites and Google ads and Meta ads and LinkedIn ads and Bing ads and all the rest of it. Just try and geo-target stuff a little bit. So there's different ways to do that. Again, I'll talk about that in more depth in another video because we're not going to have time to do it here, but kind of geo-target stuff. There are different ways to do it, from well, again, that's a whole nother subject. I don't want to get into that now because I'll be talking for another 10 minutes, but just look at things like Google My Business, local maps that you can pin stuff on digitally, and WhatsApp marketing for neighborhoods, and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it really is an area where I could talk for like half an hour, longer than that. It's a whole nother video completely. So we'll talk about that in a later stage on another day. So yeah. I'll just do one more, okay, so then I'm going to wrap up this video. So a lot of people have kind of asked, is the funnel dead, but that's like the sales funnel. If you Google the sales funnel, it'll bring up the standard example, which is like ADA, and you'll see what that stands for. So like in the past, and you see a lot of employers asking for somebody to take control and manage their funnel and lead funnels, sales funnels, and it's the process by which customers are marketed to, and they kind of filter down through the funnel, the sales funnel. It starts with awareness, and but it just filters down. So look, what I would say is just maybe look at some different things like looping journeys and community content conversion, stuff like that. Brands using things like Discord, Reddit, WhatsApp. Times are changing a bit. There's a big focus on automation and engagement. There's a lot of automation platforms out there now. For me personally, I like to see a bit of a balance, because if I see everything's automated, it feels a bit too clinical and there's no kind of personal human touch. So I don't like everything, but this is me personally, I don't like everything to be 100% automated, because I feel that viewers or potential clients would then start to think that it's all a bit too clinical, and you never get to meet anybody. It reminds you of some of these sort of budget airlines where you can do everything online, but you can never get hold of anybody. Similar kind of thing. So for me personally, I'm just talking about me personally. I like to see a bit of a human touch and personal service combined with some email automation. It might be for email, it might be for something else, but and I suppose also like AI personalization is like a big thing. I know I've touched on that in the past. There's like a bit of code you can put on the website, and it will via a bit of software. Well, when I say a bit of software, it's like a SaaS platform, and it will bring up all kinds of metrics and who lands on your site, what parts of your site they look at, and then the software will recommend to them through things like Messenger and WhatsApp, what might be of interest to them based on what they've looked at already. So that's quite a growing thing as well. But I'm going to leave it there because I know I've talked for too long as usual. It's quite normal. So thank you for watching. I hope to see you on the next one. As I said, probably be the week after next, and I'll make a kind of similar length of video then. So thanks again for watching, guys. See you next time. Bye.